Checkity check, check the Chinese chicken.
Is this a song now?
Yeah, you have a drumstick and your brain stops ticking. You don't know that song?
I do know the song. I don't think that's one of the words, though.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You watching X-Files with the light on. You got your light on. You got your light on. Here comes Jerry's next guest, and it's a slugfest because you've got your light on.
Who's next guest?
It's the combination of Bare Naked Ladies and Weird Al Yankovic. Because Weird Al Yankovic does the Bare Naked Ladies song, but he does it about Jerry Springer.
Oh, you know what? I've never actually heard that parody. I've heard a lot of his parodies, but that's one I missed.
It's bad, because all Jerry Springer is bad, but for a different reason.
It's uncomfortable.
But Weird Al is also bad. I've
learned Weird Al.
I've learned that I really don't like parody. And I've learned it even more through TikTok, because there's a lot of parody of stuff.
But I've made so many parody songs for your birthday, baby.
You haven't made that many.
I mean, at least half. So, like 4?
I take it back. I love parody.
The very first one was parody, and you loved it.
I said I've learned. That means at the time I liked it. So whatever you do now, make sure that it's not parody.
Oh, okay.
Were you planning on doing a parody?
I mean, you were asking to get the kids more involved, and so yes, I was planning on doing a parody because it's easier for them. But, okay. Note taken.
I mean, you can do a parody.
No, apparently I can't. Your birthday's like a month and a half out, so I gotta pivot real fast.
You mean a parody I can't.
Oh, God.
You get it?
No.
Welcome to the Two Better Halves podcast. What is this? Where are we? What are we doing?
We are doing a podcast of Two Better Halves, which is a husband and a wife splitting up time to discuss a topic however they choose.
And why are we splitting up time?
It makes it fair. So during my 15, 20 minutes, I can mute you, I can ask you questions, I can dialogue or monologue by myself, I can make you do things. You like to make me sing, whatever we want to do. But then we make it fair and make sure that during the other person's time, we're respectful and they get the chance to lead it however they so choose, so that we're really giving equal time to make sure that we're truly listening to what the other person has to say.
Because so many times in relationships, communication is the big issue. We're solving it here on the Two Better Halves podcast.
And that's why our marriage is perfect.
That's why our marriage is perfect. That and the fact that you make me parody songs that I get to listen to.
Apparently not. Apparently that's a big issue. But see, you've communicated now that that's an issue for you, and I can now work to address it.
That's true. See, look. And we didn't even need 15 minutes each to do it.
It's true.
Today is a very special episode. You're listening to this. A lot of you probably already voted, unfortunately.
That's true.
God, why did you guys vote? Ugh.
I mean, I voted.
So I couldn't have even changed your mind if you weren't going to vote already.
No, but I can tell everybody how I voted, and then you can make me feel bad about it.
Well, what why would I have made you feel bad? I already know that I like the way you voted.
Okay, well, then you're not going to make me feel bad. You're going to say, great job. I'm proud of you, wife.
Which I've already said. Great job. Proud of you, wife. You did a good job voting.
Yeah, but now you're going to say it publicly.
Oh, which counts a lot more.
It does, because now I can play it back later if you try to say that you didn't want to side with me on this election. Then I can be like, up.
That's true.
Proof.
But if you haven't voted yet, we're not going to change your mind. We don't have that power. We're not. We don't have that kind of influence. But you get to hear how we're planning on voting. You get to hear how we think politically about certain political things. Again, politics is something that we could talk about forever. And if you listen to our old episodes, we've probably built it into certain topics and discussions many, many times. So really putting it into 15, 20 minutes is going to be tough.
And it's probably going to come up again, to be fair.
Yeah, it's come up many, many times in the past. We've talked about Donald Trump plenty of times in our old episodes.
Hopefully that time's coming to an end, though. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Not for me. Love me some big old T-Rump with his big old rump Trump.
He does have a big rump.
Big old rump Trump. Give me that. Give me that.
He kind of looks like a T-Rex sometimes, too, the way he
T-Rex?
stands. Yeah, because he stands, he leans forward and sticks his butt out, so he almost has a little bit of that T-Rex sort of vibe.
What the hell?
Well, look at him. Look at how he stands sometimes. He does not stand straight up and down like a normal person.
What is wrong with you?
He stands leaning slightly forward with his butt slightly out, like a T-Rex.
No one has ever.
You're going to notice it now, and you're never going to be able to see it a different way again.
No one has ever looked at him and thought, as a T-Rex.
I'm going to tell you, you are now.
But we are not too super, I wouldn't say we're super political.
No, definitely not.
We are very But then again, we're very into social justice and social justice issues. So I think we are probably more political than we realize.
Yes, but I would say that, and again, it's easy to look at yourself and think of yourself through rose-colored glasses. But I feel like I feel like we're pretty strong in our personal beliefs, but I don't feel like we're overly aggressive about showing or sharing them with other people.
But then, like, for, like, the Black Lives Matter stuff, we sure were. And for, like, gay and human rights, we sure were. And those are healthcare stuff, you sure are. Fair. That's what I'm saying. Like, those kind of issues, those are considered political issues.
That's fair.
Like, the way I got about the Syrian stuff, the Syrian refugee stuff a couple years ago, I mean, stuff like that, those are political issues.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that again, we've already said the lines kind of blur between political issues and lots of other topics. So.
We'll go for large chunks of time not talking about it, and we're more than happy to not bring it up and not talk about it and not get super into it.
I certainly would never want to be a politician.
No.
So.
But we are probably more into politics than we realize.
I would say that's fair.
Yeah. So anyways, you can disagree with us. That's perfectly fine. We won't be able to explain every which way we stand on everything here. I know it's a bigger deal for a lot of people than it is for us, but you can always reach out to us on our Instagram and our Facebook at Two Better Halves Podcast. But before we get into all that serious, schmerious stuff, how are you doing? I am back to work now.
Yes.
4 nights a week.
Yes.
So that means you're having to hold down the fort by yourself. Are you cheating on me yet?
Definitely not.
Because on our last episode, which you can check out anywhere you enjoy podcasts, I said that if you started having sex with someone else, I would not end our marriage.
Yes, you did.
So that means you can be getting slound-hounded.
Yes, but I honestly, even if I wanted to, which I don't have time to be slound-hounded. I'm not sure what slound-hounding is, but...
yeah, you do. You know what it is.
I mean...
It's when someone's got like a hound, the animal. It's got like that big
like
mouth.
Dog?
Yeah, like a hound. Like when you think of a hound, you think of like a dog that's almost a wolf. And it's got that big old tongue.
Okay.
And it's like...
Okay.
You get slound-hounded.
Okay. Well, definitely not. Between working and driving kids places extra now because they're not riding the bus, and then you being at work and having to do all of the homework things and the household chores and the putting kids to bed and the cooking of dinners and all that kind of stuff.
And getting slound-hounded.
There's really not time for the slound-hounding, even if I wanted to.
You make it sound like when I get home, I don't slound-hound you sometimes.
Yeah, but you are specifically implying that someone else is doing it.
But your reasoning is that there's not enough time.
Yeah, because then you're here during that time when everyone's asleep.
So the only reason you're not getting slammed.
No, because I also said I didn't want to.
Oh, that's right.
I made that very clear multiple times.
That's true. I'll have to go back and edit out all that.
Okay.
That's true. We had sex yesterday. Yesterday afternoon?
Yeah.
That was pretty good. It was good.
It was nice.
Yeah.
One of the advantages of working from home and having no kids around.
Although I would say shockingly, considering how often we're both home, you and I, we really don't have sex that much during the day because I take a lot of naps.
Yeah,
I take so many naps.
And I actually am legitimately working. So
yeah. She works from home doing her cancer treatment centers stuff.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Medical education. So I've been working on Zoom calls and recording things, trying to get those recordings up as enduring programming. I have a very special presentation to our enterprise CEO coming up this week, which I'm a little nervous about.
Mm-hmm. And I wake up and put Scotland on the school bus, and my blood sugar goes up high when I first wake up, and that adrenaline starts going, and then I'm tired and I go back to sleep, or I do a couple things for a couple hours, or I watch Jolly St. Click, check him out on Twitch for a bit. He's my little brother. And then I have to take a nap and reset my blood sugar before I have to go to work for later and pick my kid back up from school. And that's sort of what we do every day.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that if you don't know someone who's a type 1 diabetic, it's rough on their bodies, and they need a lot more sleep than the average person.
And if you don't know someone at all, that's just sad.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You can know us.
You can know us. One more thing before we hop into you want to do 20 minutes each?
Yeah, let's do 20 minutes.
20 minutes each. We're doing 20 minutes today. If you haven't checked out isidewith.com, we greatly encourage you to do so. We're going to be referencing that a lot throughout this. It is a website that is very much fair, and they provide a service where you fill out a quiz, and they match you up with the politician that they think you should vote for president, and then for things like the
Senate. And the House.
Yep, for your local elections, locally, not super local, and then they base it off on things that the actual candidates have said. So it's not based on opinions. They're not going to base it off of something like, oh, Trump tweeted this and this is our impression of what he meant by that. It's based off of what they have said, what is on their websites and stuff like that.
And it's really neat because it allows you to not just answer the questions. Like, you can do a super rudimentary, 10-minute maybe quiz, but in certain areas you can expand it and they'll give you more detailed questions. You can actually rank the questions based on how important that topic is to you. So if there's certain things that are like deal breakers for you, in terms of the candidates you would want to vote for, you can make sure you rank those super high. Stuff that you're maybe less informed about or don't really care about, you can rank it lower, and it helps align with that as well. And then it also gives you not just yes or no options, but you can click on it and get a lot more expanded options, explaining what your reasoning is for certain things. And so, you can spend an hour and a half doing this quiz and get a much more detailed,
forever,
a much detailed answer, or you can spend 5 minutes and get sort of a rudimentary high level answer of what they would recommend.
So if you haven't checked it out there, go ahead, pop on over to isidewith.com, fill it out. They won't just tell you should vote for this person. They'll tell you the percentage of connection you have with that person. Like, it tells me this is the percentage you have with this candidate, but then it goes all the way through every single person. So it's pretty.
And if you're not sure on a question, it's got a cute little 2 or 3 sentence summary that does not take a lot of time that explains to you what the issue is. Because there's a couple issues on there that, I'll be honest, I did not know a lot about, but I could just click on explain more and it would give me a very quick synopsis of what that issue was and why it was important. So you don't have to do a lot of extra research either.
Okay. Anything else? Would you like to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
You don't go first often, so.
I'll go first. I gotta find my timer, though. Hold on. Where's the timer? Maybe I can't find the timer.
I've let me down again.
I found the timer.
Okay.
And go. So we're going to start this by me doing just a little synopsis sort of my iSide with results, right? And then I'll
if that's what you'd like,
pass it over to asking questions to you. So I will say that through this process, I learned there are parties that I've never heard of before. Or maybe ideologies. I don't know. They list them as parties. But my top several are ones that I was not really aware of. Ones that I was more aware of are further down. But it definitely aligned with, if I look at the 2 main parties that are in our system, they rank about where I would have expected them to rank. So the way that the site breaks it down, it gives you your parties. My number 1 party at an 87% match is actually a 3-way tie between Peace and Freedom, Socialist, and Green.
Socialist!
Yeah, so I'm not entirely surprised by that. The reason I think that I got Socialist as high as I did is because the number 1 issue to me is healthcare. It's really, obviously, working in healthcare, having a master's in healthcare administration. I know more than the average person when it comes to what our healthcare system is, how it was set up, how it functions, how it compares to other systems in the world, how it compares in terms of cost and outcomes and wait times and all of those kinds of things. And so I'm very passionate that capitalism is not a good fit for healthcare. I think capitalism can be successful in a lot of other ways. I don't think that capitalism is a successful way to drive prices, outcomes, whatever you want to say, in healthcare. And so I'm definitely very in favor of a one-payer healthcare system. And because I ranked every healthcare question as really important and continually answered questions in a way that suggested that I thought a one-payer system is the way to go, that I'm not surprised that Socialist is as high as it is.
And who gets us closer to that, Biden or Trump?
Biden definitely gets us closer to that. And, Democrats in general, if you look at the nominees that the party has surfaced in the past, Bernie Sanders was definitely in favor of a much closer to socialist medicine system. There's been other nominees that have come up that are much closer to that. They don't always make it, through the primaries to the main card, but it's something that when you have that many nominees that are surfacing early on, it's something that's clearly important to a large subset of the party. And so it's not surprising that that's going to fit there. So if you look then going down, Democratic at 83% match is way higher than Republican at 15.
15%?
15. So, again, I think...
And that's just overall. That's not we're not talking specifically in the healthcare.
No,
right?
we are not. So we're talking about overall. But the fact that the questions I consistently weighted the highest were healthcare, and I know that my answers consistently go towards that one-payer system, I think that definitely heavily weighs into that.
Yeah.
Being construed that way. The other things that I rank really high are things that relate to science and the environment. And again, because I favor things that are more green, things that are more, looking at alternative fuels and energy, protecting our environment, encouraging the data of science and vaccines and things like that. Both of those also are going to align far more closely with Democratic principles than they are with Republican.
So will you read, because there's 5 candidates, right, that they consider.
Yes.
Will you read starting at the top all the way down and the percentage they say electability for you?
Yes. So my number 1 is 89%, Howie Hawkins, who's running in the Green Party, if you have not heard of him.
Oh, Howie.
And again, one of the other things that they do at the end of this quiz on the isidewith.com is at the end, you have to answer what traits are most important to you in a candidate. There's like a whole bunch of boxes: integrity, honesty,
Big D energy.
Yeah, looking at science.
Big D energy is not one of them.
Charisma's on there though, which is kind of big D energy.
What? There are women.
Yeah, a woman can have big D energy.
Oh, I guess. In 2020, am I right?
So, but anyway, so when you look at how your candidates break down, it talks about the fact that I picked honesty, integrity, morality as high traits in a candidate. And so they're marking him as displaying those traits, in addition to the fact that he supports environmentalism, obviously, as a part of the Green Party and democracy. My next one down from that at 78% is Brian Carroll, who's a part of the American Solidarity Party, which I will be honest, I did not know existed before. So,
and he looks a lot like Howie Hawkins, too.
They both are old white men with beards and glasses. I didn't put anything about my candidate needing to be old or white or male or wearing glasses.
Well, they just assume that that's what you need.
Apparently, that's a priority for me. The next one down at 75% is Joe Biden, who is a Democrat.
We all know that old bitch.
After that at 58%, so those top 3 are pretty close together. It's a pretty big leap down to the next one. 58% is Joe Jorgensen, who's a libertarian. I have definitely voted libertarian in the past. I think it's a third-party candidate that consistently makes it onto the ballot and is not a write-in candidate. And I often have disagreed with major policy points from both Democrats and Republicans, and I definitely feel like our system would benefit more if we had more viable parties that could potentially get elected. And so my mindset in the past has been voting for a third party to help build that platform up a little bit more, to help them get more resources, to potentially be able to grow into a party that could legitimately compete against the sort of the two monoliths. I don't feel in this election like I have that luxury. I feel like voting third party in this instance is definitely splitting a vote, and I'm pretty passionate about removing a particular candidate. So I feel like I need to vote for the candidate that has the best chance of success to defeat him rather than splinter my vote. But that's not always been my voting strategy in the past, and I've definitely voted libertarian before. And then at 30%, not surprisingly, is Donald Trump.
At 30%?
30%. So significantly lower than my top tier choices according to this poll. For Senate, we live in Georgia, which I think we've mentioned before. So similarly, Democratic John Ossoff is my highest choice at 88%. My Republican candidate is 33%. So again, very similar, much, much lower in terms of who they would recommend that I vote for. And then also for our House of Representatives, 85% Democrat, 43% Republican. So my card is definitely encouraging me to vote blue, which I did.
Spoilers. Oh, and very good job. Thank you for doing that. I'm happy you did that. See, I said it.
Aw, look at that.
Everyone heard you.
You came here for arguments, people. You're not getting them. I'm sorry.
Well, we'll argue.
Yeah, so I really like this quiz. I feel like the fact that you get to say which topics are the most important to you really helps shape things. I definitely learned some things about parties that I had not heard about before.
Not that you're going to vote for them.
Transhumanist is one that I had really high, but it makes me want to learn more about them and try to understand if there's ways that I could, outside of voting for a candidate on a ballot in a major election, are there other ways that I could maybe help these parties to grow and influence? Because clearly they align much more with my ideology, and if they were able to put forward viable candidates for offices, maybe I would feel better about my election choices, because while I did vote for Joe Biden and I definitely feel he's the superior choice in this election, there's a lot of things I don't like about Joe Biden also. He is not my ideal candidate by any means. He is not going to inspire in me the kind of fervor that Trump has inspired in some of the Republican party, people who are part of the Republican Party. There's almost like this godlike worship that some people have for him. Biden definitely does not inspire that in me, but I feel like he's a better choice than Trump, and that is why he got my vote, because he's better than the alternative, not because I'm excited about him.
Can I ask questions during your
You can ask
20?
A question, but
you don't have to answer.
We'll see how far we get into it.
Yeah. So in the last election, you voted third party.
Yes.
Would you have done that if the polls wouldn't have been so misleading in the fact that it seemed like Hillary Clinton was going to win?
Absolutely not. If I had felt that, because I did not look at it as throwing away my vote. I looked at it as I'm trying.
Supporting,
I would
forward,
be behind this third party. They much more closely align with my values than Democrats do, and I want this party to become something that can put forward viable options in the future. And perhaps if they get my vote, they can start to get enough money through fundraising
and all that.
That becomes something that they can do in the future. And I honestly thought that there was no chance in hell that Trump was going to win. I was obviously wrong. And I definitely think there was an aspect of media misleading me, making me think that she had such a handy lead that didn't matter. And maybe that was what made the difference. And I hate that we feel like we're in that position where we can't vote for the candidate that we feel like most aligns with our beliefs.
Oh, you can still vote for him.
We have to vote against the one that least aligns with our beliefs in order to make sure.
That is not what's happening, though.
I understand that, but that's almost the lesson that I learned was I wound up with a candidate who so vastly does not align with my belief system that I'm extremely unhappy with, that I potentially could have prevented that. I mean, obviously not my one vote would have made the difference. But if enough people who were in my same position, who had the same thought process that I did, had voted for the lesser evil, that the world might be different now than the situation that we're in. And maybe not. I mean, there's no way to know that. Hindsight's 20/20, and, there's no way to know what would have happened had Hillary won versus Trump and what the world would look like under her, what decisions she would have made. I mean, we can only make assumptions, but it definitely, the fact that Hillary lost last time definitely is why I'm voting for Biden this time. I mean, absolutely, hands down. That would not have happened otherwise. Okay, so to make sure I make best use of my time, I'm going to ask some questions of you during my 20 minutes also, as opposed to just giving things about myself. So one of the things that I think I like, and I've mentioned several times I really like about this quiz, is it lets you weight questions and say, this one's really important to me. Because there are some that, honestly, I'm not informed enough to have a valid opinion on, and if it weighed every question equally, it might encourage different candidates for me.
You mean you're not an expert on foreign trade?
I am not an expert on foreign trade. I know very, very little about that. So I really like that it lets me weigh the questions that
drilling
matter the most to me. So what's like the biggest thing for you? Like, what if you had to pick just one thing and this was the deal breaker for you? Like if your candidate did not side with you on this one topic, there's no way you could possibly vote for him, even if they agreed with you on everything else. What's that one thing?
Oh, the very first thing that comes to mind is gay rights. So I guess that would be it. Like, number one thing.
Yeah.
Like, if someone said absolutely that they would... Because, I mean, there are things that come to my mind that are, like unrealistic things. Like, okay, they are going to just start randomly killing people.
Yeah.
Things like that. They are going to allow...
But what are the topics that traditionally
like the things that you would
on?
find on this poll.
Yeah.
Yeah, the things like, social issues. Social issues are the main things for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, human rights stuff.
Is it human? So you mentioned LGBTQ plus things first. Does that expand beyond that? Because human rights, I think, is a lot bigger than just gay rights is one subset of that. But we're talking about, immigrants and Black and brown people and, different religious, America's traditionally Christian in nature. So, people who are Jewish or Muslim or things like that. I mean...
There are lots of things there that I care about, but the one that would be an automatic deal breaker would be the gay rights stuff at this point in life. I would not be able to deal with any type of candidate. I wouldn't be able to deal with a human being around me that was against that.
Okay, so
that's just the number one.
Okay.
I mean, there's number two, number three.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm really, really, really big about asylum, immigrants seeking asylum. Like if there are people in other countries that those other countries are the government and their wars over there and they're all trying to kill them and they need to go somewhere else and they need to stay somewhere else, they should be able to come over to where we live. So them not being allowed to do that, I don't remember what it was. It was a couple years ago, and they were saying that that terrorists would be hiding among them and stuff. That was the first time I really didn't like Donald Trump, was when he was saying that I don't remember all the specifics of everything. That terrorists would be hiding among them.
There were several Muslim bans, in particular, trying to single out individual men as opposed to women and children, and
stuff like that. That is just heartbreaking to think about, not allowing that. But then, like, dealing with illegal immigration is not a number one thing, because I think that is a sensitive issue.
I think, to your point, too, there's issues for me that have a lot of gray, right? Like illegal immigration. What is illegal? Who is that? How do we determine who's the highest risk? There's a lot of gray area in there where there could be more room for debate and pulling up statistics versus do all humans deserve equal rights and compassion is a very different question.
Yeah. I think it should be the fastest way and most humane way possible to get illegal immigrants to become legal immigrants. But I don't think illegal immigrants should just be unforgivable free-for-all of whateverness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there needs to be a very compassionate middle ground.
Okay.
But as far as gay rights go, I think the fact that there is even a discussion of the phrase gay rights has to be a specific phrase bothers me. It should just be human rights, stuff like that. So that's my number one thing.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense to me. So one of the other things that came up a lot, especially during the last election with Trump and Hillary, is the Electoral College and the way that system works. That system has been around for a very long time. In theory, it's to make it fair, so that all states have equal say, more or less. But obviously with Hillary winning the popular vote, but Trump winning the Electoral College, and there's been other cases in the past of similar things happening. How do you feel about that?
Do we want to run exactly how it works? Do you want to say exactly how it works for everybody?
I do not. I can't tell you every single detail. I just know that certain states are allocated a specific number of delegates, and it's based on various things. And it's to make sure things like, if you look at just total population, California and New York, for example, have just those two states alone, population-wise, are going to take over the majority of the Midwest. Places like Wyoming and Utah, where there's just not as many people that live there. And so the Electoral College was set up to help compensate for the fact that there may not be equal people living in equal areas. And obviously the concerns of someone living in Wyoming are going to be different than the concerns of someone living in metropolitan New York City. And so it was trying to take that into account. I think that the House and Senate also do that, where the Senate allows 2 seats for each state, regardless of your population, whereas the House of Representatives is broken up a little bit more specifically based on regions and population. And definitely there are some states that have way more House seats than others.
Nerd.
But that's sort of the extent of what I know about the Electoral College.
It's complicated. You only have to know about it every now and then. I don't like it. But I also will admit that I don't know a ton about it because, you're always told that that's just how it is. So, it's not like I can do anything about it. So if I was told, hey, you can vote against it, then I would look up a ton about it. I don't understand, and I'm probably just dumb, but I don't understand why the fact that politics and the president affects the most humans, right? Like, the president and the laws and everything affects people.
Yes.
More than anything.
Yes.
So, not land. Like, land doesn't feel things. Land doesn't feel things that laws change and do. Like, I don't understand why what a human soul, and I don't believe in souls, why humans... Like, I don't understand why the human count wouldn't be the number one thing.
Yeah, and so I'm on your side on this one. And again, there's a lot that I don't know, and maybe if I learned a little bit more, I could understand it a little better. But if there are 10 million people living in metropolitan areas where people live closely together, their concerns, to me, are equally as important as the 10 farmers who are living in their 100-acre plots. And so
right.
When you set up the Electoral College, it seems like you're giving those people in the rural areas a bigger chunk of the deciding factor.
You're just telling one human life that, like, because if the popular vote, like, because Hillary Clinton won popular vote by 2 million people, right?
It was close to that. Quite a bit.
It's just saying that 2 million people...
That their votes didn't matter.
Their votes didn't matter. So, I mean...
It's saying that certain people's votes count more than others, which is why you see the swing states and... Oh, well, we ran out of time.
Yeah. It's more than that. It's saying that those people matter less, because then everything that president does matters less. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Again, we could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
So 20 minutes is not quite sufficient. But
I know, we need even more than 20. Let me know when my time begins.
Okay, your time starts now.
All right, so let's go through my 220. That would be the year 220 presidential ballot of isidewith.com, and I'm only going to hit you with the presidentials. My 86% match is Howie Hawkins, of course. Big old Howie of the Green Party.
The house.
And I don't even really count him because the Green Party doesn't exist. That's a joke. 81% match with Joe Biden. So good job, Joe Biden. That's higher than you got him.
That's high.
You were
I had
like
75.
in the 70. 75% Brian Carroll.
He was my 78. So we got the same top 3.
56% Joe Jorgensen.
Same top 4.
And 43% Donald Trump.
Look at that. We were a match made in heaven. You guys, you don't need a marriage counselor. You don't need any sort of dating app or test. You need to go to iSidewith, and if your top choices don't align well, run fast. This is not the match for you.
I don't agree with that. I think it is important because there are some things on here that are important to cite for a relationship, but like I'm not of the belief that you need to be in a relationship with someone of the same political party. I'm not of the belief that you can only be friends with someone of the same political party. I know that's not the popular opinion currently if you look over social media. What do you think of that?
I think it depends on what those deal breakers are.
Okay, but not just overall.
Not just overall.
Okay. Anyways, so let's first discuss the stuff I agree, or the stuff that, according to iSidewith, I'm with Trump on. It doesn't ask me specifically, go into depth about why you agree with these certain things. It seems like I side with Republicans on just a couple of very, very small issues. I tend to side with Republicans when it comes to things of national security. When it comes to preparing to keep our country safe and national surveillance. That's a hard word. Surveillance. I can't say it. Surveillance. Am I saying it?
No, surveillance. No, there's no liens.
Surveillance. There you go. Surveillance.
There you go.
That's really tough. I tend to side with being pretty tough on that. And I think that's because I just know I've always been safe. And I mean, even Obama, he's pretty famous for his whole drone strikes. Look it up, kiddos. But Republicans are pretty starch on I'm not going to try to say that word again. But I side with them a lot on that. My stance on abortion, I tend to side with Republicans, but I always vote pro choice. But it's one of those things. It's one of my opinions, like religion, where I still believe in God, but I wish I didn't. I wish that abortions never needed to happen. So I really don't like that So I'm assuming most people wish abortions didn't happen. So I probably don't agree with Republicans on abortions. Just the whole thing. Just I have a hard time just thinking about it and dealing with it. Let's see what else because when you go to your thing and after you fill it out, you can then go through and see where you have answered yes, and then where people of where the presidents have also answered no or yes to the same things you have answered yes or no to. And, Donald Trump is actually, even with healthcare stuff, like I'm looking through, should the government regulate the price of life-saving drugs? I said yes. Donald Trump also said yes. Joe Biden said yes. There's a lot of things that Trump and I have agreed on that you may be like, well, no, Trump never said that. But he actually says yes. But the main thing for me is, I guess, the national security. I don't have a problem with us spending a lot of money on military and stuff like that. I don't have a problem with us being in other countries for wars and stuff. I can when it gets a little out of hand, but that is not where I spend a lot of my time worrying about. I worry about when the people over here are people that we are not treating right. I spend a lot more time worrying about that. And currently we're not treating them right. But yes, Joe Biden is my top choice according to this poll, and it is currently who I plan on voting for. I have not voted yet. I will vote on Election Day. That is my plan at the moment. I might change my mind and end up going for third party.
Just vote.
But I will vote. I've always voted third party. I voted, how many times have I voted now?
I'm not sure. Several.
How old am I?
You're 31.
So how many times would I have been able to vote?
Last time you'd have been 27, and then the time before that you'd have been 23, and then the time before that you would have been 19.
So 3 times. Yeah, and I voted third party every single time. And I voted third party every single time. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm really, like you were saying, not excited about Joe Biden at all. Wasn't excited for Hillary Clinton. Wasn't excited for Barack Obama. So, we'll see. We'll see what I do. Probably going to vote Joe Biden because, I guess my issue, because I don't like either of them, but I only consider one of them to be dangerous. I think if Joe Biden becomes president, it will be boring. He'll be boring. He will have a really hard time because I think he's old and I think he's dumb. But he has...
Yeah, can we talk about the fact that both of these candidates are in their 70s?
But Donald Trump doesn't... I don't think Donald Trump feels like he's in his 70s.
But the age that you need to be a president
is 35.
Is 35.
Yeah.
Like, why do we not have candidates... Like, I get it. You want some experience. You want someone who's got some gravitas. You want someone who's lost their... influenceability, I don't think that's a word, but their ability to be influenced too strongly. Like, you want them to be able to stand firm in their opinions. But could somebody in their 50s or even their 60s not do that?
In fairness, there were people that were running, but they didn't get...
I know, but
during the primaries,
it's frustrating to me.
Who'd you vote for in the primaries? Do you remember?
I think Elizabeth
I voted
Warren.
Bernie. You voted Elizabeth Warren?
I think I voted Elizabeth Warren.
I went with Bernie because I was on that hype train for a bit.
Yeah, I know, and I get it. I think Bernie has the socialized
and he's old as fuck.
But then he was old as and that's
but
the
he doesn't
thing.
seem old.
In theory,
Biden seems so old.
But here's the thing. In theory, these presidents could be around. Well, Trump can only be around for 4 more years, but Biden could be around for 8.
Well,
if he is around for 8 years, he will be 86.
Yeah, but this gets to my point. My point is that he is old, and I think he's old. He seems a lot older than Donald Trump. Donald Trump seems like he seems like he is full of a horrible venom that makes him youthful and spiteful. But Joe he's got Kamala Harris, and I really like Kamala Harris.
Yes,
I am a big fan of Kamala Harris. I got the shirt. I got the Kamala Harris shirt. I am a fan of Kamala. She was pretty much didn't stand a chance by the time we got to the Georgia primaries, unfortunately. I really like her. I know she wasn't perfect. She's done some things. We've listened to a podcast about her. We've looked into her and stuff. I think that's a big upside to her. So one of my questions on my topic is, when you vote for Joe Biden and stuff like that, how much of it is, because even he has said things, is based on the excitement of the fact that he does have her, and eventually, I mean, if something happens to him,
she definitely helped his ticket for me. Absolutely. Yeah. That choice helped for me. There's some things that Kamala Harris, like her record as DA and some of the hard on crime policies that she took, that's another area that I'm pretty passionate on. I'm anti-death penalty. I don't think there should be mandatory minimum sentences. I think a lot of the drug crime charges are ridiculous and overblown and definitely disproportionately target minority populations. And honestly, the drug crimes, they're not violent crimes. They're not, like, I get that you might want to use them to get someone who you can't get on a higher crime. You know, some of those drug dealer kingpins. But
I see that for her as a fuck up in the past, not as a vision for the future.
Exactly. I think that the stances that she has made make me think that that is not going to be her platform going forward, because that is really important to me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to continue to have someone, and honestly, if you look back at history, Republicans and Democrats both have had this tough on crime stance, which has loosely translated to, we're going to implement mandatory minimum sentences for drug violations, which disproportionately affect minority populations. And I don't think that those drug offenses should come with a minimum mandatory sentence like they do, because there's a difference between somebody in their neighborhood selling some drugs, especially if it's, you know, marijuana or things that are not shown to be highly addictive and lethal, versus those drug kingpins who are out there potentially killing hundreds of people to maintain their drug empire, and you can't get them on their murder charges, so you're going to get them on the drug charge and then put them away for that. Like, there should be different you should be able to look at each case and decide what matters there, and color the amount of time you give someone accordingly. There shouldn't be mandatory minimum sentences. But I agree with you. I think that Kamala has shown that she's willing to move away from that stance that she's had in the past.
I think, I think with someone like Biden, I think, especially because I pay attention to the stuff coming out with his son and China and all this stuff, I think with somebody who's been in politics for 30 plus years, I'm sure Biden's done some horrible shit. And he's been mixed up with some horrible shit. But again, I think that's fuck-ups in the past versus the absolute danger of Donald Trump now. And I think a lot of people are going to die, and a lot of hate's going to be is going to keep on being fueled into the United States. Fueled is going to be filled into the United States.
The thing that scares me so much about Trump is that he has that godlike worship status by some people, which we've talked about this before. Obama certainly inspired that in some people.
I think Obama started it.
They got so behind him as a person that, and once you get into that state, signs. Once you start looking at somebody through those glasses like that, it's almost impossible for anybody to tell you anything that's going to make you take them off the pedestal. Like, you've already raised them to such a point that you're willing to overlook, defend so many things. And so he, to your point with being dangerous now, totally sold not wearing masks as a political statement, not wearing masks as something cool to do, as opposed to looking at any, being able to separate that. And so I think there's a lot of people who maybe would have been persuaded to wear masks because they could see the science behind it. They could see the results behind it. They could see the data behind it. But because they love Trump so much and they want to be like him, that they're not able to see that. And that's really unfortunate because it doesn't just hurt them, unfortunately, but it hurts everyone around them in their community.
Well, it's the spirit. It's the spirit of Trump is insults and hate and being a bully. And even if Biden comes in and he doesn't make as many deals in America with manufacturers, which Trump has made he's made some good deals.
Oh, he's definitely done some good things.
I would rather have someone in that doesn't have the spirit of being a bully and a dick and influences that kind of a thing.
And to almost normalize and encourage that kind of behavior. Like there's something about, and to be fair, he has had an ability to have a presence on social media via Twitter and platforms like that other presidents haven't had. Like it's been normalized for him to be able to do that and to be able to put his words out there in that manner. But he's able to have this constant day-to-day, minute-to-minute interaction with people who follow him and encourage and incite that bullying behavior and normalize that bullying behavior to such an extent that people, I think, feel more comfortable engaging in that kind of debate with their friends and their family that is sort of unprecedented. And again, I'm not going to put that all on him because had other presidents had that platform, I don't think he would be the only one that would have been in that position. I think other ones would have done it too, but it's a perfect storm with him.
So do you think, and I said Obama started this godlike looking at a presidential candidate, and I don't mean that Obama started it. I think Obama's supporters started putting up a president on a pedestal like that because I think it probably started with Bush's second term. After 9/11, everybody was looking for a godlike president, and then when he stopped Osama bin Laden, Bush probably got put up on the pedestal like that.
Yeah, and I think that Clinton, there was a certain
sex vibe.
Yeah, there was a certain sexiness with him that put him up. So again, I'm totally not going to put all of this on Trump.
My question is, do you think Trump is as bad as Trump seems, or do you think Trump's supporters make him seem worse than he is? Because, there are some things he's done.
Yes. I think it's a chicken and the egg kind of thing, though. Because, again, I think...
Well, that's what I'm asking you personally. Do you think, because most of our friends are liberals, and they really, really hate Trump. Do you think their opinion on him is right? That he is as bad as they think? Or do you think that their opinion of him is kind of skewed about Trump's supporters?
So, as a person, as an individual, I think Trump is a horrendous person. I think he has said and done very little as a human being that would ever make me enjoy him. Now, as a president, can I say that there are certain deals that he has made or policies that he has put in place that have been beneficial to the United States? Yes. I mean, he has. There's no doubt that he has done successful things in his 4 years in office. But I think that, I think from a policy perspective and a law perspective, the things that he has done negatively, because they are hot button issues for me personally, outweigh the good that he has done. Hands down.
That's where I stand.
But I also think it's a chicken and the egg thing because I think, to your point, especially with things like Twitter and the way that the news is now and the 24/7 coverage, he says things that then incite a response in his followers. Not everyone. I'm not saying everyone who votes Trump is like this, but the most fervent, the ones who are really putting him on the pedestal and have raised him to this almost worshipful godlike status where he can do no wrong, look at that, and then they behave poorly because he's setting that example. And then he sees that and he feeds off that. So that he plays into that because he understands celebrity and he understands how you are popular and he understands how you maintain that image and the value of image because he's been involved in media and television shows and he understands how you build a public persona.
So
it feeds back into itself and it's like this negative feedback loop where they do bad things, he does bad things, and they escalate and they have risen each other to a level that neither one of them would have ever gotten to by themselves. It's like mob mentality.
That kind of answers my next question because this is sort of the blanket statement that a lot of people throw out there. Are you a racist if you vote for Donald Trump?
So I think...
And isn't that, I mean...
Yes.
People throw it out there, blanket statement. So
yes.
I need a blanket answer. And then I need a yes or no, and then you can add to it. Are you a racist if you vote for Donald Trump?
I'm going to say yes as a blanket statement. But I am going to qualify that with I think that America has been, continues to be both Democratic and Republican, a racist country. And I think a lot of that comes back to the immigration stuff. I think that we have, since our inception, been very anti-immigration. There's been a lot of anti-immigration laws. There's been a lot of, if you look back at what Clinton did, if you look back at what Obama did.
So you're a racist? That's what you're saying?
I think that I think everyone is racist.
Everyone is racist.
I think everyone is racist. I think it's shades of gray. And I think that there are people who are racist.
So it's not bad then to be a racist.
It is bad to be a racist. We
So
should all be
bad.
striving. We should all be striving to minimize the racist tendencies that we have by
So
our very
everyone
nature.
is racist, but everyone should be striving to be something no one has ever accomplished not being.
Yes.
Even though it's been proven to be impossible by your logic.
Yes.
Though no one has ever been able to not
Yes.
be it. No one in the world is not
Yes.
a racist.
I mean, we all should
No
be
one
striving.
in the history of
think
mankind has
anyone-
ever not been a racist.
I don't think anyone in the history of mankind has ever been perfect. There's a lot of flaws.
But no one in the history of mankind has ever not been a racist?
No, I don't think so.
What?
The way that our biology is programmed is that we tend
That is
to
a statement.
we tend to associate things as being, we feel safest with people and things that are most like us. And that comes down to not just how we appear, but it comes down to gender, it comes down to age, it comes down to religion. There are so many studies that show that if you walk in a room and there's empty seats.
All right, let's reword it then in a way that isn't such a answer that doesn't hurt anybody's
You
feelings.
asked me to give a blanket statement, and that I was going to
Yeah,
qualify
but then the
it.
added. No, okay. Do you think if you vote for Trump, you are a violent, typical racist? Like you hate black people?
If you are saying just you hate black people, I would say no.
Or you hate Mexicans?
Mexicans,
The problem
yes.
is, you know what I mean when I say, you know what I mean when people say, if you vote for Donald Trump, you're a racist. You know what people mean
Yes.
when they say
So-
that, but you're not answering that.
Right. So, but again,
If you vote for Trump, you hate Mexicans.
I think yes.
Why?
Because
Every single person that votes for Donald Trump hates Mexicans.
I think that what you are saying is, at the very least, if you were voting for Trump, that the policies that he has enacted against immigrants coming from Mexico and Latin America are of so little concern to you, those other issues are so much more important, that you are willing to overlook that.
Okay. I mean, I can't
It's
ask
not a
any
deal breaker
follow-ups.
for you.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Glad we got to that. Most people agree with you on that. Let's end this off with giving our predictions of who we think is going to win the election. I can go first if you don't want to.
I'm really hopeful.
I'm assuming you're going with Howie.
Based on what I've seen.
Is it Big Brian?
I am really hopeful that it's going to be Biden.
Prediction-wise, I want you to give me exact count of each state. I'm just kidding.
I cannot do that.
You don't have to give me delegate
I don't think
counts.
it's going to be a landslide. I definitely don't think it's going to be a landslide. I am hopeful that it will be enough that it's not going to be so closely contested that we're going to be pushing this to Supreme Court decisions.
That would suck. I don't know. This isn't like the movies. I don't think it's going to be like that.
But early indications are that I think that there is a large enough percentage of people that are, because Trump is so polarizing, I feel like at this point, given that he's demonstrated that and it's so polarizing, that Biden will win. but I don't think it'll be a landslide.
Because he's polarizing.
Because he's so polarizing, I think that he will almost inspire enough people who are against him to go out and vote.
What are the early indications of that?
So there's been, based on the early voting that has already happened, media outlets have already started to say where things are falling. And right now, it's looking like Biden's about 60 electoral college votes ahead of Trump, which would...
Well, in fairness to that, they don't know if... You can't really compare that until Election Day.
Right.
And
That's what I'm saying. Early
what the turnout is compared.
Early indications are suggesting that. Now, whether that's disproportionately affected because the people who are most anti-Trump are so excited to vote him out of office that they've all gone and voted early, and come Election Day is going to be...
And they would, and those people would feel safer doing it spread out early voting rather than coming on Election Day.
So again, that is entirely possible. But just my general sense, and again, most of our friends are liberal, so I'm definitely getting a filtered view when I look at the world at large versus what I see from news outlets. But I'm very hopeful that Biden will win, and not a landslide, but a far enough victory that will not warrant months and months of legal debates about recounting ballots.
Yeah. Definitely hopeful of that. I don't think that's going to happen. I want it to happen, but I do think that Donald Trump will win re-election. I think it goes a long way when we were talking about the godlike statuses. I think if you look at what we were discussing, and this comes from the being obsessed with professional wrestling in me, I guess, but when a candidate is loved and people are putting them up on that pedestal, that means a lot more than when a candidate is considered, well, at least he's better than the alternative. I mean, like you're saying, Bill Clinton was the sex symbol and he was sexy and he was there for 8 years. George Bush, he was considered the hero who helped with 9/11, and Barack Obama, he was hope and Nobel Peace Prize, and now Trump, and
I know. I fear
Biden is just
as little as I know.
He's not that exciting
about international politics. The things that I have seen, and you've pointed this out. I'm way more into politics now than I've been in the past, and a lot of that has honestly been because I've been required to cover COVID for my work, and so I've been a lot more involved in the news just in general on a day-to-day basis because of that. But the rest of the world, in general, views Trump very poorly. And I think that the stature of the United States as like this powerful country is going to go down substantially. And I think it's going to put us into a hole that's going to be hard to dig out of from a international relations standpoint.
If anything, the United States has been in much worse places. We had literal slaves. So it'll be 4 more years. If he does win, we can get out of it. We'll be fine. We'll be good.
Maybe.
We'll be good. We got each other.
Oh, you just mean you and me, specifically.
No, I mean you and me. Specifically. But that is my prediction at the moment. I hope I'm wrong. Very much hope I'm wrong. I hope we go back to some boring politics of Joe Biden.
Yeah, if we don't have to talk about the president every day, I'm going to be happy.
But I do think that Donald Trump will win. Love you guys.
Yeah.
Be sure to find us on Instagram.
And Facebook.
And enjoy us anywhere you enjoy your podcast.
See you later.